Meet Dave of Delusions of Grandeur, actor, producer, and director of films like Tales of the Forgotten. He has come to assemble a team of freaks, geeks, and even worse, film nerds, to discuss films ranging from mainstream to downright crazy. There is Tammy, car enthusiast, and Dave's fiance, Dustin, reptile expert and overall horror collector, Jake, environmentalist and fine art film critic, and finally Brandon, a therapist with a love of film that can only be seen as insanity. Together under Dave's leadership, they are Inside Movies Galore. Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show.
To heal.
Alrighty. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting film journey here on Inside Movies Galore. I am one of your hosts, and we are continuing with the Dracula films that were put forward by my fiance. Unfortunately, she is feeling under the weather today. Maybe it might be that vampire bite she just recently got, but in any case, we are going to be going on about a film that was filmed in 1968 by, directed by Freddie Francis, and it is called Dracula Has Risen from the Grave. It is written by Anthony Hines, based on Bram Stoker's novel and writings of the same similar story. And it stars Christopher Lee, Rupert Davies, Veronica Carlson, Barbara Ewing, Barry Andrews, Ewan Hooper, and many other actresses and actors. So let's see what IMDb says about the film, and then we'll go around to first impressions. After a Monsignor accidentally brings Count Dracula back from the dead while exorcising his castle, the vampire preys on the holy man's beautiful niece and her friends. Which is kind of funny because it wasn't that Monsignor nor that they're talking about that brought him back from the dead. It was that priest. But anyways, let's go into first impressions. Let's start with you, Brandon. Was this a first time watch for you?
Oh yeah, pretty much all these are first time watches for me. So, I'll admit, for the most part, I have been unimpressed by Christopher Lee's Dracula, though this is the first time I felt like he's gotten more time on screen. Because I really feel like it's not his fault, but the fact that they underused Dracula in Dracula movies. Yeah. That doesn't make sense to me. But that's how it feels.
It's like they were afraid to use Dracula to portray Dracula.
Yeah.
But here, he gets to shine a little bit more. You get to hear him speak. And you get to see the power of... I mean, Christopher Lee has amazing oration skills. And you get to see a little of that here, but nowhere near what you should be able to. Mm-hmm. And... I was a little bit more impressed with this one. It's still not enough for me to be like, I understand why people say he's one of the best Draculas, but so far one of the better movies for him. So I'm kind of happy for him because he had a lot more to do in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And overall, the story was not too bad. I mean, story of redemption. I'm kind of glad that they didn't take the atheist character and say, well, he has to face the light and turn to Jesus in order to be saved. So I kind of liked that, how they did the twist. And by the way, spoilers involved. So there are a few things in writing that I was surprised at, because again, there were things that I was going to say, oh, this is how it's going to go, and it twisted a little bit. So I gotta give it there. The writing's a little bit more clever. That it's not as bloody as some of the previous, but does have some bloody moments, like impaling and stuff like that, which are pretty impressive for back then. So overall, not a bad one. One I would watch over some of the others. Definitely over Brides.
Okay. What about you, Jake? Was this the first time watch for you?
Yeah, this was definitely a first time. I mean, again, I'm coming to these new myself. And I agree with Brandon. This is the first one where I felt like, okay, I can kind of see why people would go, oh, Christopher Lee is a great Dracula. He is definitely underutilized in the film. And I agree. I still haven't seen anything where it's like, oh man, you can't beat this, you know. I definitely haven't seen that yet, but he has a lot more to do, I think, than he has the entire franchise so far in this movie. And you can tell that he seems to appreciate being given that chance and that he's trying to make the most of it. And he does come across as more imposing, you know, so there is that. And the foil, as it were, well, I guess the two foils mainly are the Monsignor and the atheist character. They're both interesting in their own ways, although the Monsignor was a little too much of a stuffed shirt for my liking. But as far as the story, I'm not sure I agree that I would say it was a terribly clever story. Parts of it were, and I agree there are some things that would have been expected to go differently that didn't necessarily. But overall, story-wise, I just did not find this one that compelling. So sort of a mixed bag. Overall, I think it is probably one of the better ones we've seen so far in this series. It probably does have a better rewatchability value, although I can't say for sure because I haven't rewatched any of them yet. But I could definitely see more with this one, how the reputation for the series came about. I can definitely see it more with this one, so I will say that.
Okay. And this is as well. I feel like I've seen bits and pieces of this one before, but I have not actually seen it in its entirety. Like I remember the part where the dudes are in the bar and they're trying to twirl around with the cup on the ceiling and try to keep themselves balanced while drinking at the same time. I feel like I've seen that before.
Well, they did that same game in one of the previous ones, didn't they? Or something similar?
Something similar, yeah, but not to this intense. One where you know they're not even helping him at all. But other than that, I do feel like this is the stronger Dracula that we've seen so far. I thought it was interesting. Okay? So in the very beginning of the movie, we get a moment where they're at the church, and there's a mute and a priest that are in this chapel, which we don't know where it is right now, but they feel like something is wrong, and a chick falls out of the bell in the tower. So and that's when the credits fall through. Now I feel like that's a moment on screen that the guys are screaming, "Hey, I see tits," but um, or at
Did you?
least, well, you didn't see tits, but I saw a fair amount of her chest. Okay.
Yeah. So speaking of, well, not speaking of, but I'm not sure I would call the kid a mute. I got the impression he was struck dumb out of shock, but
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I think he was struck dumb out of sock, but ultimately he became a muto.
yeah, and obviously his shock was because of how much movie he got to see.
Yeah, he was struck completely because he'd seen the breasts almost fall out of that dress, man. But in any case,
I did. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I didn't see the purpose of that scene as much. I mean, I see the purpose, but I felt like it was wasted or padded runtime, really. The reason why I say that is, yeah, it does connect in a way because it gives them the excuse, like, oh, well, you can't even have church services because of all this stuff that happened 10 years ago. Well, heck with that. No, it wasn't 10 years ago. It was less than that in this one. But,
yeah, it was like a year or two later.
Yeah, no, I think the last week one, I think was 10 years later, and this one I think was a year after from the last one.
Correct.
Yeah, so this one really, to me, I felt like it was just a scene to show a little bit more blood, to get a little bit more of a shock out of the beginning. I really didn't feel like it was necessary to the story.
Well,
no,
I mean, it did help show why the priest was a little less certain in his position than the Monsignor was, because there still are vampire attacks happening.
Well, and I feel like he is already under the spell of Dracula by this time too. So
Was he?
I don't think so.
I don't think he was
time.
at this point.
I think a lot of it because
then why was he so pale looking? I mean, to me, he was a hell of a lot.
You'd be pale if you found a dead body.
Yeah,
I guess.
And then got really, really drunk afterwards. That'd probably make you pale too. Or
I mean, he's an individual who I think it led to him being able to be manipulated because of the shock of it all. He had lost his courage and, in a way, had lost his faith. I mean, he wouldn't
and he had lost his congregation too.
Yeah, and if you really think about it, that's one of the little twists of the story. Is really the story is not about the atheist finding faith, which is what you would think it would be going. It's more about the priest in this losing faith but finding redemption, finding a way back.
Finding his voice back into the faith spectrum of things.
Because that's really more of the meat of it at the end. And what most of us didn't realize we were watching this is it wasn't about the atheist guy, it was about that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And his struggles, him kind of bitching out at the beginning, accidentally freeing Dracula, doing Dracula's bidding because he was too much of a coward.
Well, and the Monsignor is actually traveling to the area because evidently he's been tasked with making sure that the faith is strong within all of his churches, and he's going back to the area in which Dracula held his reign to make sure that things are being that his church is being run right, and that his priest of a bitch. I kid you not, because I feel like he was kind of an underling priest who he had to make sure that he was towing the line well, you know. And when he gets there, the church is completely abandoned on a Sunday, I believe, and the priest is not even doing mass, and they're all sitting at the bar next
Well,
door.
he says he did it already, and no one came.
Yeah, he does, but I feel like that is also an excuse.
Yeah,
No matter what, shit ain't being done the way that he thinks it should be, and all the people in the inn at the moment were all saying the evil is still around, it still exists. Yes, Dracula is dead, but his evil still is there.
yeah.
So the Monsignor takes.
They're saying his shadow of the castle touches the church at a certain time of day.
Correct, and it
Shadow
also touches the
itself is evil.
town as well.
Yeah,
So they're afraid to even leave, like that bar, to because this is an entirely different bar than we see later on. It's um it's whatever bar was closest to the church at the time. But the Monsignor then does go to the castle and takes the priest with him, because he thinks he should do what needs to be done. He is a priest of God, of all things. He should be doing these things himself, but he has to take it upon himself to make sure he eradicates and exorcises the castle. Okay, so he sticks this big, gigantic metal cross on the door of the castle, and he tries to get the priest to go with him up the mountain to do that, but the priest is like, "Fuck you."
well, no, he does. He has the priest lead the way to the castle. He's like, you know these hills better than I do, and the priest reluctantly agrees. He gets close to the castle, and that's when he bitches out. He's like,
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Yeah, you go on. I'm gonna stay here, and what? And meanwhile, while the Monsignor has gone up to the castle to do all this, the priest, well, he kind of trips daisies and falls down, and basically cracks open
Yeah.
the Dracula's watery grave.
Yeah.
So it's not the Monsignor that brings him out of his grave or anything. It is that priest that.
Well, I mean, all things being equal, the Monsignor did bring the guy there.
Doesn't matter. It's that priest that opened up the grave of
Yeah.
Dracula with his head, and his blood is the blood that you know damn well as an actor. He smeared that on Dracula's lips.
Yeah, well, that is ultimately what revives Dracula, is being able to drink some blood. Yeah.
For a while, he has like a blood mustache, much like a milk mustache.
He just wanted to look like Ronald McDonald at that moment. So in any case, touche. But he rises from the grave, and he points at the priest and basically points. I think he points him out to a coffin that he wants. So Ultimately, I think he. In fact, it looks like someone who's been staked before, been a bride of his before. He's like, just dump that bitch out.
I do like how he goes to the castle and he's like, "What the fuck? You locked me out of my own damn castle."
Yeah.
Right? What, did you do this? No. Then who did? It wasn't me. It was the Monsignor. You bitch.
Yeah.
Sorry. I kind of modernized the downplay here, but ultimately, he's basically made to get him a coffin ready and get his first victim in order. So the priest then becomes a creeper.
Every time Dracula's
Yeah.
involved here, he's almost always out for some form of vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in the first movie, he's simply just replacing the bride that was taken from him and staked. It's like, hey, I had this whole thing worked out. I was good. I had this stuff. You wrecked my family environment. I got to get it back. And the second one, it was just, he had to get back his little family unit, and he was stopped in it. And then this time, they basically locked him out. They evicted him from his castle. And now he's mad. He's coming after the dude that just locked him out. He's like, hey, how dare you lock me out of my castle?
Well, I feel like Dracula's first mistake was in making the only female that you see around the barmaid. I forget her name. But he makes her his first bite victim, and I'm like, in town, she's known by a lot of those people. Don't you think that somebody might suspect something?
Well, I mean, she does her job, and I don't really get his anger at her failing when the failure was on Dracula.
Yeah. Xena was her name.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the landlord bar dude that
The barmaid was Xena.
Yeah. Barmaid name was Xena, and then Paul was the young guy, I believe.
I mean, she brought him the person that she wanted, even though she was perfectly happy to be Dracula's bride herself.
Well, yeah, she was like, "Why can't you just be happy with me?"
Yeah.
He's just like, "You're not innocent enough for my taste. I need the virginal."
Because evidently the virgin blood is always the thing that Dracula loves more. It's the more enticing thing because then the woman of choice is not as used. So evidently, the idea of having something virginal, pure, is something that runs rampant in these vampire films as well. So, but there is one thing that I thought was actually something that was added to the lore of vampires, and I don't think we see anything about it afterwards or before. Is the fact that once he stakes him, he's got to say a prayer, which evidently just staking the damn the damn dude is not going to kill him. He just takes that stake out and keeps on going because a prayer wasn't said. That wasn't something that was in any of these previous vampire films. This was something that was added to the whole thing. And I almost feel like it's kind of stupid to the whole vampire thing, but then again, it works for this story because then it redeems the priest later on. But let's back up a little bit, a bit because uh, we do have this storyline where we've got two star-crossed lovers, Paul and the blonde girl, who just so happens to be the niece of the Monsignor. These two
Mhm.
are very much in love, and Paul is well known to be very studious. He likes his books. He's kind of a nerd, but and
Now.
he also is a helper and a worker of the bar in which Xena also works in. And so them two working together hand in hand with the bar owner, it seems to be a relatively decent, you know.
And he's an apprentice pastry chef.
Yes, an apprentice
Indeed.
pastry chef. Yes.
Indeed.
So
Which is typical for a bar.
right. I mean, it looked like it looked like what he was passing around the bar owner wasn't bread; it was actually strudel, type thing. It looked more like a strudel than it did a piece of bread. Okay, so
Right.
that is
They
to
are in
me
Germany.
was a little bit different. So I thought that was an interesting aspect.
If you
But
come in for the beer, you leave with the pastries.
Mhm.
so, what did y'all think about the patrons of the bar and the bar owner himself?
The bar owner was fun. The patrons were patrons.
Well, there must be like a college or university close by or something like that, because there's a lot of these students that are there. And I like the little drinking game that they did, where you're supposed to like drink a beer in one hand and hold the other beer up against the roof with the other hand.
Hmm.
I thought that was a fun game.
Yeah, it did look like a fun game. And then of course, when Paul had let's see, now Paul, he dressed up because this was a meet the parents moment.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing, except they are her aunt and uncle, kind of. And the
Oh no, no,
Monsignor, well, he's not exactly
that's her mother and her uncle.
okay, but her mother is sweet on the Monsignor.
Are you sure about that?
I'm pretty sure because they said that they often said that they would be a married couple if they could. You know, so
They definitely were like an old couple in some ways.
correct. So it's like they'd lived together so long together with each other. They might as well consider each other man and wife. Type of thing. But
Okay.
That's why I was kind of curious. I feel like the uncle was more of a father figure than he was an uncle figure.
Well, they do say that he kind of took over for the brother. I guess the brother died or something. Like he's just kind of stepped into the role.
Well, and Paul, well, he wants to try to keep his uniform intact, but unfortunately, he was distracted by his affianced, and the beer just went all over his so-called suit. And she is like, "Oh fuck it, you're gonna have to come as you are." So they, now he did not have a whole lot of help from the patrons or Xena herself, because Xena seemed to be very flirtatious with Paul as well.
She was
Um,
flirtatious with everybody.
yeah, but she was definitely flirtatious with Paul,
Well, this is
especially when he came back after the sort of kind of bad parenting meeting, even though you could tell Paul was actually being very polite.
Mhm.
But he straight out told the Monsignor the truth, that when he asked about his religious affiliation, he was like, "Dude, I'm an atheist," and he's the one that took it, and got went into his like religious rant, and as people of religion who are very into their religion often do.
well, like I said, he's a stuffed shirt.
Yeah, more stuffy than anything else, and stuck in the ways of religious piety. But so that did not go over well, because of that, and so he asked if this was a time where they'd rather have him leave, and the mother was like, "You bet your bottom dollar." But you could tell that the niece was very disappointed and was upset, you know, because she often thought that this meeting would actually go better than it did, but it
Yeah.
didn't.
Well, dropping the atheist bomb on the Monsignor was
Is almost as bad as admitting that you're an adulterer, you know.
so
Well,
it's
the Monsignor had just complimented him on his honesty. And, if someone's going to say, hey, I admire your honesty, I respect you for being straightforward, and then the next thing you're going to do is lie to them, I mean,
well,
he kind of had a choice to make, and he decided to be honest. And, you got to give him points for that,
and I do think it came back as a net positive, and at least as far as the Monsignor's thinking in the background, because it was later that he actually did say that, look, he will keep her safe, because he did feel like he could trust him that way. So the honesty helped in that way. He just didn't want him marrying when, no atheists here. No atheists in this family.
True that. So he leaves. Paul leaves, and he goes back to the inn or bar, because he actually lives at the inn. He actually has a room there, but he actually starts to drink a few shots of whatever liquor they have there.
Schnapps. Xena
Schnapps.
gets him. And I fully agree with this point. He says something like, "Oh, people actually like this," and she's like, "They like the effect it has." I fully agree. I agree, because I am not a fan of schnapps, but yeah.
I don't think I've had schnapps.
Well, there are many kinds, and some are better than others, but mostly they're not great.
Schnapps is better as something to add to a mixer.
Very much.
Than it is to drink on its own.
Gotcha.
Actually, though, a lot of shot liquors are like that. There's only a few of them but then again, if you're doing shots, then you're not doing it to taste the liquor. Shots are definitely done to have the desired effect.
it depends on how you're doing. If you're throwing them back,
Yeah, like throwing them back.
That's what you're. Yeah, but
you're doing like shot.
Snaps will mess you up. It again depends on the kind, but it is the kind of drink that can mess you up if you're just throwing them back.
Yeah.
And basically, what happens is he gets drunk, and I do think Xena has a few more ideas in mind.
You could even say he gets hammered.
Yeah, you could say that. He gets hammered in a Hammer film. But in any case, he kind of loses his wit a bit, and he basically hits on her a bit, and she drags him up to his room, and it seems like she is about to have her way with him, but that's when what is her name? I'm trying to remember the blonde's name. Let's see. Let me see if I can't figure that out real fast. IMDb.
Maria.
Okay, Maria. Yes. Okay, so Maria is apparently, and we find this out as the film goes on. It appears that she can actually come and visit him a lot more frequently because the rooftops, the way that they are adjacent to each other, she's just a hop, skip, and a jump away by rooftop. So she comes in through, I think, one of the windows and doors or whatnot. Sees Xena with him, and she definitely does not trust her with him because it looks like she's about to unzip his fly or untie his fly, you know. But she goes away, and they have their basically midnight romance thingy, kind of a kiss before they go to bed. And she goes off and back home, but Xena, well, she runs into the innkeeper downstairs, and he's kind of surprised that she's still there. But then she says, "It'll be nice for me to walk home," and it's Xena who is followed by the Dracula and the priest and whatnot, and she's almost it almost looks like the carriage is actually going to run her down, but she turns around and boom, there he is, Dracula, right there, and he basically it looks like she gets bitten, and then apparently in the morning when Paul wakes up and goes down into the pastry part of the inn. He finds Xena there, and she. It's like he noticed that she actually spent the night there. You know. What do y'all think about that the fact that necklace or that neck thing that she had around her neck actually pretty much covers the bites.
Well, when he sees her, she's covering her neck with her hand.
Yeah.
Later, she puts that on.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
So, and so she starts acting a little odd, but he doesn't pay her no mind. Not even later, to be honest. Paul just kind of goes about his business, but the priest comes by and basically has Xena come down to the basement area because evidently that's where the priest is set up shop with Dracula and his coffin and shit. Evidently, there's a deeper part of the inn that apparently has been forgotten about, and that's where his place of residence is at this moment, because he hasn't exactly gotten someone to take the darn cross off his castle. But he's about to attempt to start to control some people so that he can get to that point where someone can help him out with that. But first he has the priest entice Xena to come down, and when she comes down there, he's like, "Do you know of this woman, the niece of the Monsignor, Maria?" And she's like, "Yes. I want you to come fetch her to me now." And she's like, "But I am all you need." And that's when we get the whole purity thing. And he's like, you better get her to me now." And so she goes back upstairs and she starts asking questions about when Maria might show up and yada yada yada. And I think that's when she runs into Paul, and and Paul said that, yeah, she's going to be stopping by some time, and she said, "You know what? I'll let you know when she comes by, and don't you worry, and don't you fret. Just go ahead and go get some sleep." And so I think he does. And then not too much longer, Maria comes around, and she's like, asking where Paul is, and she's like, "I know where he is. He's down below in the bakery." And so she goes down into the bakery, and um, she looks around for a couple of moments. And she doesn't seem to see him, but when she turns a corner, all of a sudden, Xena throws a burlap sack over her head and pretty much drags her across the room to the door, in which I guess around the corner and down some steps is where uh, Dracula is kept. She's thrown to the floor, and that's when Dracula attempts to try to make his moves on her. But Paul has been told that by the bar patrons upstairs um, that Maria has been seen and that she's looking for him. So he comes downstairs, tries to look for her. By the way, what do y'all think about this whole these whole scenes so far? I know I keep talking. Either one of you?
What's up?
Sorry, I had myself on mute. I was saying, it's like, it's surprising that Dracula flees so quickly. In this, I mean, it didn't take much. I think you push some hot coals on him or something like that. But he leapt out of there, and Dracula could have easily taken this dude down.
Yeah, he could have.
It's not like he was a superimposing figure to Dracula. Dracula had supernatural strength. Though that's one thing I have seen that's a fairly common thread in some of these films, is that Dracula's a little bit of a bitch when it comes to and, because he'll confront somebody, and as soon as he sees the fight might not be going 100% his way, he bitches out and runs.
Right.
Well, he wasn't quite as imposing as they make that type of character nowadays, because he had flaws. He definitely had flaws, and most of us as moviegoers could see that one could take him down if he wanted to,
Right.
But Yeah, he threw some coal and fire on it, and I think that's what scared his ass. So he bombed out of there real fast.
And Dracula's punishment for Dina, or whatever her name was, afterwards was way over. I think it's mainly because Dracula felt shame at pussing out, as they say. Uh,
Well, he basically blamed Xena for it going so badly. Um,
Yeah,
like I guess he expected perfection to the extent where the dude wasn't going to come after her or whatnot. But you have to understand that the woman that you chose has a lover, dude.
well, the way that he, did this, and I'll give it this, he definitely shows more personality here than he has in any of the other movies because he interacts a lot more.
Well, and he
And
has more. He has more to say in this movie too.
I mean, when he is talking, he's talking in kind of almost a hushed words. But when he does talk, you can tell he's used to his voice carrying and his voice being obeyed. And the fact that he tells him, like, after he has drained her and she's got, the teeth, like, as she's getting ready to turn, and he tells him, like, all right, dispose of her, destroy her. I'm like, damn, that's cold. Not even going to use her as a vampire to go off and do the bidding. It's like, no,
right,
just destroy her.
right.
That is cold, man.
Yeah. And not only that, he's telling the priest to do it. He's like, he's telling this guy, you got to do some stuff that will not, that's totally against what you are on about.
Right. So this is where my mind becomes a little fuzzy as to what happens next. I do believe that okay. I do believe that after that particular incident, she does eventually traipse her way home. Maria does, and her mother bitches at her for going out and seeing Paul, but then I think she faints.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to be honest. My brain is a mess right now. I had very little sleep over the weekend. It sounded like you guys were just talking about Paul's confrontation with Dracula, right?
At least one of his.
Right. But wasn't his confrontation after Maria went home and got everyone worried
He
about?
had an initial confrontation with him, only very briefly, just because Maria had come to search for him.
Okay.
And
But
then he had a
talking
full
about
on confrontation with him where he actually, and this is after the Monsignor dies.
right. The one where you guys mentioned him throwing the coals. That was much later, right?
No, that was at this moment where
You're sure about that? Because I feel
yes.
like him throwing the coals was right before the climax of the movie.
No.
Okay,
He throws the coals
whatever.
at Dracula as he was making his flight out of there, because the whole thing was ruined for him. So it was like he was starting to be a baby. He gets thrown the coals at him. His cape starts on fire, and he flees the coop.
Right.
So that happens at that initial first. Now you see me, now you don't.
Okay. Well,
And Maria, he finds Maria stumbling around down in the bakery, and he's like, "How did you get here?" And then he I think that's when he takes her up to his room. They talk a bit, but then she sneaks back to her room, and that's when her mom catches her. And she's like, "You've been to see that Paul again, haven't you?" and then of course that's when she faints, and she wakes up and she sees the Monsignor, and the Monsignor is like, "You really love the guy, don't you?"
Okay.
Um, and then it's that night that she is actually bitten for the first time by Dracula,
Right.
and then the doctor comes in to see her, um, and vice versa. Now, all the while she is getting bitten, and they're trying to protect her from Dracula again. Paul is overworking working at the inn double time because Xena has is MIA, and the priest uh, evidently he thinks that the priest will tell him when he can actually see his sweet Maria again. Because he asks him, and when can I see her? And he's like, I'll send her to you as soon as she is able. you know. So, but uh, basically, what happens at the Monsignors is that they basically once the Monsignor realizes that Dracula is back because he notices the bite marks on her neck. So what he does is he takes and has like these things of garlic put around her head, and he also calls over Paul. He calls over Paul because I think he thinks that he loves her enough that he will protect her. That's what he basically said.
Well, doesn't he
And
suffer his injury first, and when he calls him, it's because he knows he's dying, right?
well, yeah, he calls him because he knows he is dying.
And when did he get injured? That I'm forgetting that part.
When did who get injured?
The Monsignor.
Oh,
It
the
was the other priest
Monsignor actually.
that hurt him like that.
What's
Yeah.
It was the other priest. He ambushed him when he was out to take on Dracula himself.
Well, yeah,
He
because
looked
after
oh, it's like you. What are you? And then bam, like there was that instant recognition, and then
yeah, because the priest was actually was taking and taking all the garlic cloves that were around her head, and he was about to take the cross off, but he couldn't. So that's when the Monsignor came in. It was like, "What the hell are you doing?" And they had a chase across the rooftops, and Dracula got involved in that thing, and the Monsignor he kind of fell down one of the roofs and kind of just lay there. And I believe that's when um, Maria. I believe they were attempting to try to take her out onto the rooftops somewhere, but the Monsignor kind of saved her from that, and he also at the same time that she had been attacked or whatnot again, or actually she Maria was crying to her mom, but she wasn't crying for the right reason. She was crying because the priest wasn't able to bring her to Dracula. But that's when the Monsignor was moaned and asked for help from what's her name, the mom, and she brought him back over the railing, and whatever injury he got from that scuffle is what eventually led to his death. But before he died, he made sure that Paul was sent for. And while Paul was being sent for, he came across the priest, and he said, "We need you here," you know. So he was kind of bulgered into coming along, even though he didn't really want to say nothing. But once he got there, he gave him this book and told him that there are steps that you need to take, and to basically.
The Monsignor had given him this book saying that you're the learned sort, right? You should be able to, but it was in Latin, I think. So he wanted the priest to be able to, because the priest could read the Latin.
Correct, but there were some other things that he said that he should do to help protect the girl against the vampire, which I think this one was a new one, taking some of the garlic cloves and taking the oil and spreading it on along the doorways and then the window sills. That one was a new one for me. Because I
That
don't.
makes sense.
Yeah, because evidently that's kind of like, to me, that kind of sounds like the biblical angel of death moment where they had to spread lamb's blood on the doors. You
And
know.
once again, the so-called garlic flowers had absolutely no garlic to them whatsoever. But anyway,
Yeah, suspension of belief. You have to kind of assume that they know what they're talking about. But in any case,
yeah.
um, moving forward, there this does lead up to the moment where Paul ends up uh, going to the priest and being like, you know what? I know you know more. Take me to his lair. Take me to where he is. But no, I can't. No, I can't. You know. But eventually he takes him down to the area, and he opens up the coffin for him. He's like, "You got to do it now. You got to do it now." So he is and does is able to pound a stake into or stab a stake into to him, but apparently because he did not say a prayer, he couldn't die with the stake in his heart, which is something that has never been done before in any of these Dracula movies before this. Always, the simple thing of staking them has been what has been the reason for their death. You know, hasn't it? I mean that. I mean, one of them has been he's crumbled to dust in sunlight, but and another one he kind of had a Jason death, but um for the most part, in order to kill a vampire, you've got to stake them in the heart, and that's it. So having to actually have to say a holy prayer afterwards is kind of an added effort, and I guess it's needed for this story because it's the redemption the priest needs, but still, it's kind of a weak one to me. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
It's
Well, we're talking about like at the very end with the death.
Well, when he stabs him, it doesn't kill him.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, you mean bending the rules? I think it's weird that they ask him to do a prayer because that's there. Though I could see them saying that you need to have faith for it to hold. I can see that.
Yeah, because like even in the previous ones, even like let's say for example Van Helsing, I don't think I've ever heard it stated that Van Helsing is an atheist or anything like that. Here it's straight up stated. So they might be saying something about faith being an important component of it. And I don't know if that would be a departure from lore because of all the stuff with holy water, crosses, that kind of thing. But it is a weird stipulation given that it is hardly ever stipulated in other sources.
True.
Yeah.
But he does, in fact, stab him, and because he apparently doesn't say a prayer, he's able to, the Dracula is actually able to take the stake right out and stumble after him. And we do have a chase out of that area. And I do believe that Dracula is able to then kidnap Maria, and ultimately, with the priest, they take the chariot, and they're on their way and headed towards the castle. So I do, but I also do believe that Paul also gets on a horse and tries to meet them post haste. Now Dracula and the priest both they all get to the castle, and he forces Maria to take the cross off, and that thing sounds heavy because that thing actually clangs a couple of times, or you hear the clang of it when it is thrown down the mountain, and it ends up landing straight up, like in a grassy knoll area type thing. But I do believe that Paul and the priest, well, they all kind of interact with each other at the very door of the castle, and I believe that he distracts Dracula long enough that he eventually falls down, and he basically falls straight on top of the cross. He kind of impales himself, you know. And that's when the priest ends up starting to say his prayer. So you get that whole like sciatic nerve acting Dracula, with the cross in his back, and you can tell that he's in pain, you know. And so it's kind of like a small dance of pain for him through the verses of the prayer, and ultimately that is his destruction. I do believe. What do y'all think about that ending there?
I mean, I liked. I said, as I said in the beginning, when I looked at this, I thought 100%. Oh well, atheist. So he's going to find faith in Jesus, and it will wrap up in that way. But they did surprise me, making it instead a redemption arc for the priest, which said the prayer and finalized it, sacrificing his own life, but gaining forgiveness, or at least supposedly. I actually did like that. I mean, I admit I'd probably have a harder time being an atheist after seeing all that.
Mm-hmm.
But at least, it wasn't the typical way that they do it. Because usually the writing would have gone the way I'd said previously.
Yeah.
So I was happy with that, and I think it's kind of cool having him impaled upon that cross that they threw down.
Yeah. What do you think, Jake? What did you think about that ending there?
Uh, I'll agree. I think that it could have gone differently. Um, and it's probably better for it. I will admit, the way it was set up, there was part of me that held out the hope that just maybe this might be one of the ones where, if you will, Dracula wins. As it is, they're going to have to come up with something fairly creative next time to bring him back. So I'm curious to see how they do that. But it worked.
Okay. So, and me, I thought it worked for what it was. I do agree with you, Brandon, that I think it was interesting that they brought the priest back for redemption instead of using the atheist as a reason to finding Jesus.
I mean,
You know?
going back to the beginning scene, which I did say is a wasted time. If you look at this story purely as the priest's story, not Dracula's, not anybody else, but the story is actually the priest's, it makes much more sense. And in a way, that's about as clever as I could give the writers the ability to do, is kind of covertly making this not Dracula's story, not the story of the couple, but
a priest redemption story.
So I am curious in the future when I return to this, however many years that is, with that knowledge, how I'll see the movie differently, knowing that it's really that the story seems to be really about the priest and his ability to get over the trauma he suffered at that beginning scene of the film.
Mm-hmm.
And that
it's partially due to that trauma, which is why he's so receptive to becoming a brainwashed buffoon for Dracula.
Like I say, I really do think that it could have been handled a little bit better writing wise, but I do feel like it was somewhat clever. I mean, I'm not saying it's expert writing, but I will say that it's a little bit more clever than I've seen so far in the series, writing wise, and I like the little twist and nuance of it.
Okay.
Like I say, I will be curious when I try to watch this again in the future whether it holds up in my mind, looking at it then from the point of view of this is about the priest.
Okay. And I think this is the best Dracula. Well, technically, best Dracula movie so far that we've seen. Would you guys agree?
In this series, potentially, arguably.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like it was more, I think it's the best written one.
Okay.
I'm curious. I mean, Taste the Blood of Dracula, I believe, is next. So I know it's not the last one. There's a lot more than that, but it's the last one we're covering for a while.
Yeah. But
so I will be curious how Taste the Blood of Dracula goes.
I'll be curious too, as well, just to see whether it goes for better or for worse. But it has been entertaining so far, and I think at the end of everything, we are now ready to talk about production. Don't you think?
Sure.
Okay. Jake, what did you think about production overall?
Probably about on par with the others. I don't feel like this one is leagues above or below the others in the series. I understand this was one of their more profitable ones. So maybe the next one will see a noticeable production bump. I'm not sure. I also read here's an interesting note, maybe not so much on the production itself, but it's an interesting note about the movie and its place in film. According to IMDb, this was the first ever movie to receive a rating from the MPAA in 1968. So that's kind of interesting.
Okay.
No. So it's the first, and I guess and it's rated G.
Mhm.
Do you imagine this being rated G if it came out in the 90s or something?
Right.
Isn't that something?
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Brandon?
I mean, production wasn't bad. I thought that it was better than some of the films. I'm still trying to figure out in my mind why Dracula Prince of Darkness, was the one that Shout Factory chose to honor as like, this is the Hammer Dracula film to see. It's not as bloody as that, but it definitely has some good makeup effects. And I do like the castle, so so some pretty decent.
Okay. And as far as me, I thought that the productions overall was decent. I thought to have two totally different bar slash inns, it showed the difference of those rather well. It as far as clothing of the time, I think they got that right. I always liked the look of the castle. They didn't show the inside of the castle this time around, so that they showed more of the inside of the inn and the bakery area and the place in which Dracula had to put up residence because he could not go inside his residence. Um, I do think that the way in which he had risen from the grave in the this one was a little kind of sketchy because it looked like someone drew lipstick on his uh, lipstick on his lips instead of it just kind of dripping in there. You know, like they could have done that a little bit better. And I hate to say this, but the cracking of his watery grave that looked like plastic that had cracked to me. But for all intents and purposes, if you're not really looking all that closely, I suppose when you're watching it for the first time, and you don't know about stuff like that, you can sit back and relax and watch it. Or, I mean, I'd have to think that the drive-throughs were still around during this day and age. So half the time when you're going to these, you're not going to just watch these movies. You're going to neck with a girl, so you're going to be distracted. You know. So to me, half of these you're probably more scared at the jump scares when you're not looking, and then opposed to. But I honestly don't think there were that many jump scares to be honest. Um, as far as anything goes, it's straightforward. So I thought the production was decent, and I think it had a lot to say about props and things like that. I wonder if they actually used real coal when he threw the coal on Dracula because it looked like they burned his hair a little bit,
Yeah, possible.
Singed it a bit, did you?
Singed it. Yes, singed is the word. Instead of having my hair white, why don't we have it just silverly singed? Why don't we? But in any case, as far as music goes, let's see who the composer was this time around. Okay, so going to Dracula. Grave. There we go. And then composer. Okay, the composer is James Bernard. And okay, so he is the composer behind. Okay, so they worked with him before. He was the composer of Horror of Dracula, The Curse of Frankenstein, the 1922 Nosferatu. He did a score for a version they did in 1997. See, he was the composer for Dracula, Prince of Darkness, Kiss of the Vampire. Definitely a lot of the Hammer horror things. Mass 2, Quartermass Experiment. Yeah. X the Unknown. Hound of the Baskervilles from 1959. Stranglers of Bombay, which was, I believe, another Hammer horror. A Terror of the Tongues, The Damned, The Gorgon, She, The Secret of Blood Island, The Plague of Zombies, Frankenstein Created Woman, Torture Garden, The Devil Rides Out. After this, Frankenstein must be destroyed, and I might as well say, Taste the Blood of Dracula, because he composed behind that. So it seems like he's been the composer of many of these vampire film. So for Hammer. So in any case, did anyone notice the score at all?
No.
Not really. It kind of faded in the background for me.
Yeah. I think it did its job, but I have yet to be blown away by this guy's score for the series.
Okay. Moving forward, let's do favorite scenes and our favorite characters. So, let's start with you, Brandon. Was there a favorite scene or scenes and or favorite character for you in here?
I'll actually go with the priest with his redemption arc. On his own, I wouldn't have, but I think it's actually pretty. I like the concept, and I do look forward to trying to watch this again with looking at it as the priest as the main character. I think that will change my outlook of this film. So I'll give him that. Favorite scene? I'll go with the end. I really liked how Dracula got impaled on the cross that was tossed down already, and then got that final redemption going. So yeah, I'll go with those.
Alrighty. Heading over to you, Jake. If you had a favorite character and or favorite scene or scenes.
Oh, I don't know. That's tricky. Truth be told, there weren't a lot of characters in this one I really did care for all that much. I'll probably go with the innkeeper or the master of the tavern. Max, I think his name was.
Okay.
He seemed a decent fellow. We'll go with him. Uh, Although, like I said, this was the first one where I was more impressed with Dracula, so he certainly gets credit there. Um, Xena was fun until she basically became Dracula's bitch, and then they just wasted that character, just totally wasted her. And yeah. As far as favorite scenes, I don't know. It's
Do you have a favorite scene?
that's what I'm saying. I don't know. Maybe I don't think anything leaps to mind as a favorite. I got a couple scenes I didn't care for, but I can't really think of a favorite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty. As far as favorite character, I have to go with Paul. I kind of like Paul. Even though his religious affiliation, I don't agree with. I still think Paul is an honest character. He's as honest as they come. In fact, he was attempting to try to be honest with Monsignor, and I do think that he was very respectful towards both of them, and that he really wanted to impress them, even though he knew the truth was going to confound them, you know. But he is an honest bloke, so I feel like his honesty was helpful was not helpful to them entirely liking him, but in dire straits, as last minute thoughts, I do think the Monsignor did come around to him, but only out of extreme emergency. Because he was dying, and he knew that he was probably his best chance at protecting Maria from the Dracula. So, um, and I do think that my favorite scenes are some of those that are across the rooftops. For some reason, I enjoy rooftop as scenes. I think that's why I enjoy the the Mary Poppins scenes with Chim Chim Cheroo or whatever. I just enjoy rooftop scenes. Um, when people are running across rooftops and stuff, I think that that kind of parkour activity is like fascinating. You know. And I found it interesting that the Monsignor, for his size, was definitely nimble enough to be doing the same, doing some chasing around on the rooftops. I thought that was interesting that he thought that he could. you know, with his portly self, he seemed like he was definitely not in that kind of shape to do that kind of parkour running across from house to house. But in any case, um, did anyone else have anything else to add?
No.
No, not really.
Alrighty, then hopefully you, ladies and gentlemen, who have been listening and watching our podcast stream, hopefully you enjoyed the movie, and hopefully if you've seen the movie or haven't seen the movie, go out and see it. And then come back and tell us whether you liked the movie and whether you liked our discussion. And let us know down in the comments what you thought of our little gathering here. But we are definitely not done with the franchise. We have one more to go. As I think we said before, it is Taste the Blood of Dracula. So I am looking forward to it. Hopefully, my fiance will be back and she'll be able to host away again next week. And I know I had a blast. How about you guys?
That was an experience.
Alrighty. Well, in any case, everyone say good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Inside movies.